Hello everyone, welcome to another University of Connecticut UPDC construction project update. My name is Lou Gett. Today is November 21st, 2016. We're going to be taking you through the progress on our new engineering and science building called the NESB building. So welcome to our 7th video in our series. We're going to begin at the same vantage point we've been using right along. And we're looking at the south elevation of the building. So again, we'll take you through. We have a total of 5 floors, plus a basement, plus a mechanical room. The first floor is now yellow on the concrete masonry units, which is our vapor barrier. They're getting prepared for the terracotta. You can see on the second floor, the structural glazing, the structural glass, otherwise called the curtain wall assembly, has begun. The clips that you see projected out, those are for the eyebrows, the shades that we looked at on the previous. So our previous mock-up, we did talk about the mock-up for that assembly. So we'll do a quick overview of the whole exterior on the south. The CMU, the block work is finished, which will be a terracotta surface over in here, all the way up through the penthouse. The penthouse is completed through here. So the corners are pretty unique spaces. There'll be glass 2 sides. Those are mostly dry labs, and we'll take you on the north side to the other corner, to the gathering and a break room space. Explain what's going on here in the north elevation. So the biggest change since the last time we were here is the structural curtain wall assembly is going on. And to explain the process a little bit here, it all goes up with a crane. So these are structural components. They're 10'6" wide. That's what you're looking at staged in this rack system here. This is one bay from floor to ceiling. The glazing is attached to structural panels. So the crane that you see in front of us hoists one panel up per time, and then they fasten it to the structure. In the process, we can see that the forklift has just removed one of these particular panels, and they're actually carried in. They have storage frames that are associated with each panel that they use. It allows them to stack them and to store them until the crane is able to lift them in place. Again, from the exterior, so there's 2 blue-like, they're called shadow box panels, and in the past they were called spandrel panels, but spandrel is when the glass is painted. The shadow box is when between the layers of glass is where the colored film is at. So 2 layers of a lighter blue on the shadow box, 2 layers of clear visible, and then another layer of gray up at about the mechanical elevation to hide some of the mechanicals in the ceiling. So on the south elevation, we'll get a closer look at the structural curtain wall. Again, the 2 layers of blue, the shadow box through here, the 2 clear layers, the gray, another layer of shadow box, and the gray will be the eyebrow shades that will be installed later on. A close-up look at this AVB, this vapor barrier system that was sprayed on. This is the waterproofing down through here. We got a chance to take a look at the contractor has snapped some lines on here, some reference lines. This is an elevation form. This is the process. They use lasers to be able to establish, perfect lines for their installation. And this will be for the installation of the terracotta that's coming shortly. Structural glass, the curtain wall here. We'll take a minute to explain how it's fastened. So again, as we talked about downstairs, these are the sectional panels, and you can see they're attached. These are called embeds. This is one mean of attachment down here on the floor, one means of attachment here, and then we have a second means to the structure up here. And this is pretty much classic on each floor. So you can see the metal that's welded to the clip up there, and there's the next attachment up on top of that, onto the embeds. And that's the classic construction on each floor all the way up. And then eventually they fill in the space between the slab and the exterior wall. on all 5 floors. The northwest corner over here, and this will be kind of a grand space in through here with the glass on 2 sides. Approaches up, there'll be the 2 elevators over right in through here that will get installed eventually. And then as we come down, will be the stacked bathrooms, will be men and women's either side on top of each other all the way up. And then as we move into the labs, it'll be on the south and the north side open lab space. Take a last look before we go over and look at the casework mock-up of what some of the systems look like ahead of the finishes in through here. And the blue piping you see that comes down, that's the acid waste vent and drain piping. So we can say, just by looking at this, we know there'll be a set of islands down in through here. We know there'll be another set of islands down in through this location, right in through here, which will line up right on the divider that you see on the structural glass on the curtain wall. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of islands down in this open space laboratory. So you can also see the services are ready to drop, and there'll be a chase down in this location right through here. Let's go over the laboratory casework mock-up. Just as we looked at the exterior mock-up, there's a mock-up in place for the laboratory casework. This is a workstation that you see here. And this is a simulation of what the casework would look like in the lab. So it's built out of place so that all the bugs can be worked out, so that everybody can look at all the details associated with the assembly. This is a little different than normal. This is a type of a resin top here. Sometimes we use the epoxy tops. So our turrets, these are what we call turrets. Gas, vacuum, and air are up in this assembly up through here along with the electrical outlets. Sometimes they're mounted down a little bit lower. This would be the chase for the utilities to come up and down into a drying rack, which is pretty much typical as we see with the sink. And the cabinets, there's always a detailed review of the cabinets on the installations. And then the whole review is documented, comments are made, and then they go into final production. So the laboratory casework mock-up is approved, and then they go into production. So this is an early look at what the labs will look like. This is a 2-bench lab section over here, and that's what will be the typical down through the labs, and then will be just the singles on the lefts and on the rights. Very nice, very light, into probably what will be the most popular meeting rooms on the floor. So this is the meeting break room space on each of the floors. It is in the most northwestern corner, so you'll see it'll capture the sun most of the day outside of the morning in this area right through here. And it will have glass on 2 sides of the wall. We'll come back to this space again, as it most likely will be one of the more grand spaces in the building. Take a quick tour of the penthouse. We are on the eastern section. We're looking at the riser. We'll get a chance to take a look at where all the ducts, they're bringing the ducts up. This is where all the air handlers will eventually be connected. So these ducts go all the way down, all the way through each floors. All the ductworks will be in, and then the rated enclosures will go over the top. So they're just beginning to form the huge pads for the air handlers, and I understand they'll be coming shortly. They'll be hoisting them through the openings that you see right here. Very windy actually up here today. So they're trying to do as much as the mechanical work as possible ahead of the air handler installations. So we're looking at on the pads here, 1, 2, 3, 4 locations. This particular building has some of the most high-tech systems that you'll find. So one of the systems is what we call a 4-pipe heating system. So when you look up to the rack, blue stands for the chilled water and red stands for the heat. So there's a supply and return for the heat and a supply and return for the chilled water. So the units have 4 pipes going to them. It's called a 4-pipe system. So that means in the shoulder seasons, the equipment has the chance to go from cooling to heating all in the same day. Where the classic 2-pipe systems, it's either in a cooling mode or in a heating mode. Tunnel location in the basement. Looking at the mechanicals here, we have the chilled water supply and return highest up into the ceiling with the steam lines down below, and the utilities are just beginning to run into the new tunnel to tie into the existing tunnel. So we'll stay in the basement and we'll enter the heating side area here. As we talked about before, there's a heating side and then there's a chilled water side through here. So it's great to be able to see all the pipe assemblies up into the ceiling. We're looking at the 2 steam to hot water exchangers over here. So none of the circulation pumps have been installed. They'll come off of these headers and down into this location over here. So we'll continue again. This is where the steam and the condensate pokes in from the exterior over into this heating section over here. The mason's still working on this corridor wall. Mason's almost finished with the job. They just have some work to do down here in the basement. So as we head down the massive piping in here to the chilled water section, we're looking at the supply and return mains that come down into here. And this is really the early stages here. We see the headers being hung from the ceiling, and here's the circulation pumps. So this work is just really beginning through here. This concludes our November 22nd, 2016 NSB project update. We thank you for your interest in our university projects. Have a great day.